Hello, you creative bunch, thanks for stopping by. This process I'm about to take you through is the initial process I went through when I first started making digital art. And it hasn't changed much till this day, really. I still do this, even though quite a lot of the tools that I use have changed along the way. But this is, I still make art this way, and it's kind of how I started out when I first got into Photoshop those years back, and I first got into making digital imagery. So check it out. So one of my favourite things to do, and I teach this in schools with young children actually, hopefully to break down the process of not wanting to make mistakes, or breaking down the process of making mistakes or being worried about it. So I get them drawing with biro pen fairly quickly. This means they can't rub it out, and it just means that you can be a bit freer and looser and not so much worry about the sort of the marks you're making, or whether they're a bit smudged or whether it's the wrong line or anything like that. And I love that process. So here's like a hard biro line done with a biro pencil, and this is a beryl broad pen that I use quite often when I'm illustrating. So I love this pen because what you can do with it, so I'm marking up this image now in just various, I'm not doing all of it, but I'm just going over various aspects of the line work. But what you can do with it, with a dab of water and a brush, is pull out that beautiful ink into the image and create the texture where, you know, where the shadows will sit in the eye sockets and the eye wells on the eyelids, around the shape of the face, and it splits down into this beautiful blue and pink colour, which is just fantastic. And obviously I'm using a bit of tissue there just to dab it off. Now, depending on how long you let the water and the ink sit on the page will determine sort of how hard the mark is, or how strong the mark is left on the image. And dabbing it off like that with a bit of tissue also creates a bit of texture as well, and it's just a nice process. So you can go over it again and again, or you can do as little or as much as you wanted to. And I'm just dabbing off here to make sure it's properly dry, and then when it is fully dry I can go back to the biro pen, and this is just doing some hatching into those areas which would have shade. And like I say, this is very much the process that I've sort of employed for years, is making this kind of loose drawing but strong drawing. As far as I'm concerned, it's like high energy, and that's echoed in what I'm doing now, sort of these sort of scribble lines I call them, but they're going with the contours that I've already got down, they're going with the lines that I've already got down, and just putting a bit of energy in there. So yeah, I teach children how to do this in schools, just, you know, to get some high energy artwork down on the paper, using a couple of techniques. And of course this brush, the beryl broad brush, is really good for, if I just scribble a bit of the brush onto a palette, you can use a bit of water and use it like watercolour as well. So you don't have to sort of use the pen straight to the surface of the paper. You can actually use it as a pigment as well, and brush it on as I'm doing here. And it depends actually on the kind of paper you use. You need to sort of test that out first. Some heavy cartridges really work well with this, some bleed and spread, and some papers actually don't smudge at all with this pen, so it's just a case of sort of testing them out before you start the process. But this particular piece of paper here is working very well with this process. So they're just about finished, just putting some bits of detail into the character with the biro pen. Then I scanned it, took it into Photoshop, and then I played around with the symmetry. You would have seen me do this before if you're used to my artwork. I love symmetry and love playing with symmetry. So I've chosen to use this one on the left hand side, so just bringing it forward. This is the one I'm going to take into Procreate. And in Procreate, I love the fact that I've got this real raw drawing that I've scanned and slightly cleaned up, and now I can start adding all sorts of digital texture, digital shading, and obviously the colorization, and sort of messing with more textures. and it's such a beautiful process to go on. It's just an awesome journey. It's like fantastic fun to do, and just exploring the image and sort of putting extra depth in it, and see what you can do with the image. Once I've done what I've done in Procreate, I often take things back to Photoshop, and in Photoshop it just gives me the power to do, I think it's probably because I'm so used to it, to be honest with you, it gives me the power to sort of clean it up and do different things with it. Now, one of the things that I do a lot, and I love the process, is put splat textures into my imagery. Now, it is thought about, it looks like random splats, but it enables me to sort of explore colour and explore that wonderful texture that splat marks make. And I do very much consider how they go down on the paper, trying to make sure, because I'm using sort of multiple brushes, but they do tend to get used maybe a couple of times, so trying to make sure that there aren't any repeat images in there after having used the brush maybe twice. So I do a lot of brush work, and then sort of using the same brush with the eraser and pulling stuff out again, and just trying to make it all balance. Much like Jackson Pollock did with his images back in the day. They've, you know, these wonderful splat images that he did, these fine artworks, but everything was so considered, balanced, and that's kind of the same sort of thing I'm looking at when I'm doing it with digital imagery as well. So it's considered, it's not random, it is me looking at sort of how it sits in the image and how it works across the canvas. And again, putting graphics and little incidents into the image is something that I do quite often as well. So yeah, just trying to pull this image together now. I did quite a lot of work in the Photoshop. And when I put this kind of stroke image around, I wanted to take it back into Procreate, which is dead easy to do with its layers, and just go back to the brush tools in Procreate and have a bit more of a mess around with it. I wanted to put some extra texture in the face as well, which is what I'm doing here. And then I'll export that out again back into Photoshop to put the final touches in, as you'll see is about to happen now. I work on quite big images, so you know I only get a varied amount of layers in Procreate, whereas Photoshop gives me infinite layers, and that's another reason that I bring it into there. So there's a finished article. Again, as ever, I like to have an explore of different colourways on the image. Fascinated by sort of what it looks like in different colourways. Happy with this image though, quite like it. I love the fact that it came from that drawing beginning. You know, drawing is such an important tool, and it's one of the things that I do teach in schools quite often to young people, how important drawing is. Such an important skill to have, and try not to worry about making mistakes. You know, the mistakes are the things that teach us. The more mistakes we make, the more we learn, as far as I'm concerned. So there it is, the finished image. Fun to do. It was a load of fun to do that one. I hope you've enjoyed that process. Have a bash at it yourself, you know, with a barrel pen and a biro, a bit of water and some tissue paper. That's all you need. Remember to check your cartridge paper just to make sure that that pen really works on the type of paper that you're using. That's good to make sure first. It can spread. There's some cheaper papers don't hold the ink very well and can spread. It's dead easy to get a piece of paper and just do a little test in the top corner or on a separate piece of paper before you start. Yeah, and just have a bash. It's quite a cathartic way of working actually. It's a lot of fun. When I use this technique in schools, children seem to really enjoy it. I think they really enjoy being able to pull some texture out of the image quite quickly, and how quickly the image kind of evolves and takes shape. So it's a fun process for people learning art as well. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, that'd be superb. Hit the bell for updates from this channel. If you've not done already, give us a subscribe, that helps me out wonderfully. It'll be brilliant to have you on board, and obviously you'll get all the updates for future videos. So thanks for stopping by, have a brilliant day, and I shall see you next time. Take care, bye for now.